Hi everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to talk about all the books that I plan to pick up in January. So January, the first month of 2022, and I do want to start the year off very well. So I do have some 5-star predictions on the list and I'm very excited to get to all of the books that I have on the list. If you have seen my plans and goals for 2022 video, and if you haven't, I will link it in the cards up above, you know that one of my goals was to start a maximum of 2 buddy reads per month so that you could say mood read a little bit if I wanted to. Now, for January, we have 10 books to talk about, and the majority of them are part of a buddy read or read along. So we are 3 days into the new year, and I already failed at one of my goals. But like I said, I am very excited to get to all of these, and January was my most upfront scheduled month, so I do think that it will work out for the rest of the year. So, like I said, 10 books to talk about. I will go over the ones that I plan to pick up physically first and then go over the ones that I plan to pick up via audiobook. And 10 is definitely more than I'm usually able to pick up in 1 month. But when we get over them and I will explain how I will read some of these books, I do think that it becomes obvious that it's not really 10 books in total and that this list is quite doable, I think. So without further ado, let's get into the books. And like I said, I am going to talk about physical books first of all, and I do think when I explain this first book, you do know why I'm saying it's not really 10 books. The first one is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, so this is a very big book. This is part of a read-along that I am hosting, and I will link the announcement video up above because we are going to read 1 book every 3 months, so we're definitely not too late to join, and we're going to start in January. So I actually already read, I think, 2 chapters of this big book, and I am going to spread this one over the 3 months of the read-along. So even though this is a 1000-page book, I will only read 300 pages in the first month, 300 in the second month, and then 300 in the last month. So from what I've read so far, I'm really enjoying it. I don't really know what it's about, other than that we are following a bunch of characters. This is a very epic fantasy, and from the get-go, somewhere in the first chapter, you already get to know about the magic system. And knowing Sanderson, yes, this is a very hard magic system, and I quite enjoyed being back into one of his worlds. So very looking forward to making my way through the Stormlight Archive series very slowly. And then the next one is also part of a read-along, and I'm also only going to read a small part in January, and that is Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson. So the first book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen series, if I'm not mistaken. So we are going to read this one together with Steve and Stacy, and I do think a couple of other booktubers as well, and of course you are welcome to join as well. And we are going to read this first book over January and February. So since this one is not that big, I think it's only 500 pages, and I do know that this one reads very slowly. I actually don't know for sure if I'm going to pick this one up in January already. I might first read my chunk of The Way of Kings. And then when I'm done with that for January, I might pick this one up and just read as much as I want to. Because if I want to, I can also prioritize this one in February. So only a small chunk of Gardens of the Moon will be read this month. Next up, we have another buddy read, but this one I will read completely in January because I do think that we have a live discussion for this one the 16th of January. So if you have read the Ash and Sand trilogy by Richard Nell, you might want to jump onto this one as well, because this one is for Dark Seas, and this is the first book in the Beyond Ash and Sand series. I think that this is also going to be a trilogy, and this is a lot shorter than Ash and Sand. So if you don't know, if you haven't seen my year in review video that I will link in the cards up above as well, Richard Nell is one of my new favorite authors. He's one of the authors that I discovered in 2021 thanks to Steve, and I really loved the Ash and Sand trilogy. I've heard from Patrick that in this book we have a character that we already got to know in Ash and Sand, so I cannot wait to start reading this book. It's only 300 pages, so I do think that this is not as epic as the Ash and Sand series, if what I've heard is correct, but either way I'm very excited because I know that Richard Nell is a great author. Then the other book that is also a buddy read, and this one is Master of Sorrows by Justin T. Gall. So I've come to the conclusion as well that I am starting a lot of new series in January. It is the way it is, I suppose. So this one I am going to read together with the lovely Joanna, and of course I will link her channel down below as well. And I'm so looking forward to this buddy read. First of all, because this is the first buddy read that I am going to do with Joanna, and I'm very looking forward to the discussion. But also because I've heard amazing things about this book, and this is definitely a 5-star prediction. So I don't know how this series is called, but I do know that this is a quartet, but that the author is very ambitious and he wants to write 3 quartets in total, so 12 books, a total series of 12 books. I don't know how connected these 3 quartets will be with one another. I don't know if we will have reoccurring characters or not, or if they just take place in the same world. I don't know. I'm just going to read this quartet and see how I like it. And the first 2 books are out. This is the first one, Master of Sorrows. What I've heard is that this is a coming of age story of the Chosen One, but the Chosen One is actually destined to become the Dark Lord. This in itself sounds very interesting, but on top of that, it says on the back that if you like Fitz from the Realm of the Elderlings, you will also like the main character of this book. And if you don't know, Fitz is my favorite character of all time. So if this is not false advertisement, I know that I'm going to love this book. And then the last physical read that I'm going to pick up in January that's not a reread, and that is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. So this is a classic, of course, and I still need to make an Expanding My Horizon video where I look back at 2021 and look forward to 2022, but spoiler alert, I am going to pick up some classics. Taylor from Made Between the Pages is going to read one classic per month, and I'm going to try to buddy read as many of those as I can. If I have space in my TBR, I'm going to read them. And the first one that we're going to pick up is The Picture of Dorian Gray. This is open as a buddy read or read along for anybody who wishes to join. A couple of people have already decided to join Taylor and myself. So if you want to, this is a very short book. My version is only 170 pages. You definitely can. I look forward to this one because I know the general story, but I haven't picked up the book, I haven't watched an adaptation of it, so I'm going in rather blind, I think, and yeah, I cannot wait. And I do hope that Taylor and I are going to have some amazing discussions because, again, like with Joanna, this is the first buddy read that I have with Taylor, and of course we are going to have many other classics that we're going to read together this year. One of them that I'm very looking forward to and also a little bit nervous about is Anna Karenina, so if anybody wants to read this Russian classic with us, then definitely put it in your agenda. I will link in the description box the entire schedule, and also it's of course open for change, but when we plan to read each of the classics, so that if you want to jump along, you can and you know well in advance. And then the last physical book that I'm going to pick up in January, and this is actually a reread. So I have it on my shelves. I didn't want to take it off because then the entire construction would fall yet again, and I picked this off my shelf so many times because this is my favorite book of all time, and that is Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Merlier, so this one. And the reason that I don't pick it off my shelves is because this book will then always fall. This is my favorite book of all time by Juliette Merlier. It's a fairy tale retelling of the Six Swans. It has Sorka, who, apart from Fitz, is my favorite character of all time. It's amazing, and I'm going to read this together with a couple of lovely ladies. So I think for now we have a lot of booktubers who are going to join us, and we are actually going to have a 24-hour read-along on January 29th. So again, I will link all of the information for this down below. Definitely read the book along with us. For me, a reread, like I said in my last video, it's not that I'm going to read the book from start to finish. I basically skim through the book until I find passages that I really loved, and then I read those in detail. So I will only be taking my time for Daughter of the Forest that one day, the 29th of January. So definitely, again, if you want to join, I will link all the details in the description box down below. So that was everything for the physical books that I'm going to pick up. Now we go over to audiobooks, and I do think that I have 4 to discuss. The first one is Best Served Cold by Joe Abercrombie. This is the first standalone that I need to pick up in the First Law universe, and I am going to read this together with Steve and anybody else who wishes to join. And yes, very looking forward to this one. I actually already picked this up on audiobook. I listened to the first couple of chapters, and it's very reminiscent of the original First Law trilogy. You can definitely feel that this is written by Joe Abercrombie, and I know that I'm going to laugh a couple of times. So definitely a big chunker, and if you don't know, Steve and I are going to read all the standalones, 1 standalone per month, and then probably jump into the Age of Madness trilogy after that. So definitely a Joe Abercrombie heavy year. Then the second audiobook that I wish to pick up is A Veil of Spears by Bradley P. Bolio. So this is the 3rd book in the Song of the Shattered Sand series, and I actually wanted to pick this one up in December. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to. Luckily, I got my hands on the audiobook, so I think that I will digest it that way because I have more space for audiobooks in January than space for physical reads, or I might go back and forth the entire time. I love the Song of the Shattered Sand series. I think that it is very good for people who love A Song of Ice and Fire, especially if you love the political intrigue, but this is set in a desert space. It has amazing lore, it has gods that take place in this world and have a very big impact on this world, and you follow somebody who is on a quest for revenge. So I really loved the first 2 books, and I wanted to get into the series further along. Unfortunately, I didn't really have time, or somehow I was just stupid and didn't prioritize it in 2021. So one of my goals in 2022 is definitely to do so, and in the first month I want to read the 3rd book. And then one of the only books, apart from the last one, that is not a read-along or is part of a buddy read, and that is Sorcery of a Queen by Brian Nesland. So this is the second book in the Dragons of Terra series. The first one was Blood of an Exile, and I talked about that one as one of my big surprises of the year. That was definitely a series that I didn't really have high hopes for because it sounded like a fast-paced story with a hero who was very funny, and in general I don't really like those stories. I like more slow stories that are not as cool as this one turned out to be, but somehow I really enjoyed it. I liked how the characters were portrayed, and the funny moments were actually funny, and it was a little bit deeper than I thought it was going to be, but all in all still a very fast and easy read. And I liked the audiobook of the first book. So now I'm definitely going to pick up the second one also through audiobook, and I do hope that I will like it as much, even though that I have heard that the second book suffers a little bit from middle book syndrome. So if that's the case, that's the case, but I have heard that the ending is amazing, so either way, I will hopefully enjoy the series as a whole. And then the last book that I'm going to pick up as an audiobook, but I will definitely read this through immersive reading, so listening to the audiobook, but also reading the physical copy, because I have heard that this is not the best book to pick up as an audiobook. And that is Droon of Kings by Jen Lyons. So this is the first book in the Course of Dragons series. I think that it's 5 books in total. 4 books are out, and the 5th book is going to come out in the middle of 2022. This is part of a read-along hosted by Voyager Through Worlds, if I'm not mistaken, but I will link her YouTube channel in the comments down below or in the description box down below. And this one I don't really know a lot about, but I just own the first 3 books and I've never picked them up. So when I heard about this read-along, I decided to give it a chance. Also, I really like Sarah's YouTube channel and I trust her opinions, and it's one of her favorite books of all time, so of course I'm going to pick it up and hopefully I will like it as much. I have heard that it can be a little bit confusing because you have different timelines. You do have footnotes, which is something that I'm not always the biggest fan of, so we will see. But for this first book, I will at the very least give it a try. So these are all of the books that I plan to pick up in January. Definitely a big pile next to me, and I do hope that I will be able to pick up most of them and of course enjoy them as much as I hope I will. Please let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these and what your thoughts are, and of course what your most anticipated pickup is for January. Is there one book that you want to start the year with because you want to have a 5-star read in the beginning of the year and that sets the tone for the rest of the year, or don't you really care about that kind of stuff? As always, I hope that you enjoyed the video and see you next time. Bye!